Hello, and welcome to Book Faces Live, the show where we bring you the faces behind your books. I'm Nathan Van Coops. I'm your host today, and I'm excited to bring you an interview with best-selling author Lucy Score today. So I'm very excited to share that interview with you. All right, so this is Book Faces Live, and we are a live interactive show where you are welcome to ask questions of me or the authors that I interview. What I'd like to do is bring our first guest, Lucy Score, on in just a few minutes. But as I do that, what I'd like to do is remind everyone that you are able to ask questions or leave comments for Lucy or myself during the interview. And we'd like to remind you that you can also leave comments after the show. If you're watching the replay today, feel free to leave those comments and we will try to get to them after the show as well. We'll try to answer those in the comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if Lucy is watching, and we're going to see if we can't get her on here. So haven't got a notification yet that she has been signed on, but we will take a look for her. And all right, we got some people. Andrea has signed on. Hello, Andrea. And Lucy is watching. So we're going to see if we can't get Lucy on with the broadcast here. So let's see what we can do here. All right, let's add Lucy to the show. Best-selling steamy romance author, and she recently had an amazing success with her latest book, The Worst Best Man. And we're excited to talk about that, as well as some of her other tremendous successes on Amazon. So it looks like we are adding her right now. Welcome to our other viewers. I see Jenny Smith, Andrea, Ken Robbins, and Annie Dyer. Welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here. As I said before, you are welcome to leave comments and questions live during this broadcast, and we will do our best to get to those at the end of this episode. We're going to do a few questions with Lucy first, and then we'll get to the audience Q&A. Okay, so we'll see. It says that it's adding Lucy to the show here, so we'll hopefully get her on in just a minute. Sometimes we get a little bit of delay in this new live Facebook method, so it doesn't always work on the first try, but we are determined, and we are excited to talk to Lucy. So, upcoming episodes too, just stay tuned this week and see if they've got lots of interviews. In addition to Lucy this week, we also have actor and narrator Neil Helligers coming on on Wednesday, and author David Gaughran coming in on Thursday, and says it couldn't bring Lucy on camera just that time, so we're going to try one more time and see if this one works this time. And then also another author coming on Friday. So busy week for Book Faces Live and new episodes. Hey, there you are.
Hey.
Hi, Lucy.
We made it.
You made it. All right. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with me today and chat with our viewers. And I'm really excited to talk about your amazing successes you're having right now.
So am I.
Yeah, I know you're already having a good day. Like, just, I can tell.
Every day is a good day when you're a writer. That's a lie. It's not always good days.
It's not true at all. All right.
Hi, Jenny Smith. I see you.
Yeah, good little showing already here. So we got some people. I'm excited to hear from you, and
Awesome.
I am one of them. And I know we have a lot to talk about today. You've had a lot going on with your business, and I can't wait to hear more about it. Can we just dive right in and start asking you some questions?
Do it.
You good
Yeah.
for that? All right. So first of all, this show is about readers and also writers. There's a lot of writers that watch, but also plenty of readers as well. Could you tell us a little bit about what readers have come to love from your series and Lucy Score books? Like, when someone picks up a Lucy Score book, what can they expect?
Sure. So I write contemporary romance. I love to write small town romance and rom-com. So there's always some humor. There's always a lot of heat. So be careful recommending them to your grandmother. And there's always a happily ever after. So that's pretty much my sweet spot.
All right. Yeah, no, it's a lot of readers that are looking for just exactly those things.
Definitely.
So You're kind of a big deal, honestly. You had a book hit #1 in the overall Amazon store, like the #1 spot there is for books, really, honestly. With your book, Pretend You're Mine, can you tell us a little bit about what that felt like for you and how that kind of changed the course of your author career?
Sure. It was very unexpected. That was the second book I had ever done. It was with a small label publisher. So I didn't really have my hand in the publishing side of things, but I wrote a book that I really felt strongly about and told a story that I wanted to read. I had no idea how readers were going to feel about it. And so it hit #1. And at that point in my career, I didn't realize what a big deal that was. I didn't realize how hard that is to do. So now looking back, I have a much greater respect for that success. At the time, I was like, I can't wait to do this again.
Right.
I have not done it again. But it changed my career in a really interesting way because I was working full-time as a marketing director for a pretty conservative accounting firm at the time, and they didn't know that I was writing romance. So 2 days before, I guess it was a Monday, I felt guilty. I knew this book was coming out, and I just wanted to like come clean. So I went to one of my bosses and I let them know, hey, I've been writing romance on the side. I have a new book coming out. And she was like, oh, that's interesting. And then 2 days later, they called me into the conference room and fired me. They said they gave me until the end of the year to find another job. This was in October. So the day after that, I was like devastated because I had a plan. I was going to work full time, write part time for a couple of years until I could save up to become a full-time writer. So the day after they told me my position was being eliminated, Pretend Your Mine came out and was this huge smash success, and I was able to actually quit early. So it was,
which is, thank goodness, but it had to have been a stressful time.
It was. I was so devastated. In 24 hours, I went from being completely devastated because my whole life plan had been derailed, and then my book comes out and it's climbing, and then it was pretty great. I was really happy with how it worked out.
Did you have any second thoughts about just plunging full into being a full-time writer, or did you?
Yeah. I actually didn't want to. I wanted to find another job, and Mr. Lucy and my publishers at the time were like, you're an idiot. My publisher did a video chat with me. I had never met her face to face, and she's like, so we want you to quit your job now, and we're going to send you an advance. And I was like, and she told me the amount of the advance, and it was my entire year's salary. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I was still very nervous about it. I've been a full-time writer for 2 years, and the income does fluctuate a lot. So it's something you got to be prepared for. Yeah.
And so now you have that was with a small press or a traditional publisher, but
a small label. It was actually run by 2 other authors.
But you have since gone independent, and you have a new release. Your new book, The Worst Best Man, has just hit. You were in the top 20 on Amazon just like this week with a completely independently published book. Like, how has that felt for you to get back to those heights again?
I'm more excited about this success because this was all me. This was all Mr. Lucy. We work together. He's my publisher, so he handles all the things that I can't or that I don't want to. Together, like, this was our success. And, it was my goal this year to break into the top 20 on Amazon. It was one of my big, scary goals that I didn't think that I would actually hit, and I did. Yeah. So I'm more excited over this than I was when we hit #1. My readers would love to get me to #1 because I promised them when they do, they can meet Mr. Lucy. They've never met him, so.
Just holding that over for a little while longer until we get you back there. But congratulations. I mean,
thank you.
It's
Thanks.
amazing.
This has been wild, and I'm just overwhelmingly proud because this was a great book and a good launch, and it made my readers really, really happy. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, it's got 4.9 stars for ratings, and it's pretty much an overwhelming success on every front you can think of. So that's got to feel incredibly good. Like, there are quite a few authors in the audience of this show, and when we were chatting a little bit before, you described this release as a textbook launch. Like, could you tell us a little about what that looks like for you and what you consider to be like the essential strategies for your
Sure.
book launches?
Yeah, my textbook launch is going to be a lot different from other people's. I don't like to do a lot of extra work that I can't measure the success rate on. Okay. So I don't do blog tours. This release, I did not do a bunch of takeovers. I didn't do any takeovers for the first week that the book was out. I just wanted to be able to focus on reader interaction, and I really wanted to test the success of my newsletter. So I didn't do anything. I sent a newsletter out first. And this is my first release with a pretty good sized newsletter list. We have about 7,500 people on it. It grew very rapidly since probably October of last year. Okay. So I really wanted to test out that. Sorry, my cat just jumped up on the desk.
Right, mine just walked past, waiting. It's circling me.
She crashes every single Facebook Live I do. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so I wanted to test out and see how successful just my newsletter was. And they got me into the top 100, which has never happened before. That was shocking. And then, so I didn't want to stress myself out with too much extra work. So I focused on talking to readers, the newsletter, my reader group in Facebook, which has been growing pretty rapidly as well. And then the missing puzzle piece that we had not been able to put together in previous launches was the Facebook ads. We've never had really successful ads. And this time we nailed it. So once you see those ads with a good relevancy and a low cost per click, throw as much money at them as you can, and you will see the return. It's just we had not been able to put that piece together before this launch. So I'm really excited about that.
A lot of experimentation and things like
that.
Yes,
a ton.
Any tips on that about what it was that you were doing differently with this ad than other ones?
This time I uploaded my newsletter list, which was much bigger this time. And then we did a lookalike audience on it, and then did some fine tuning of the targeting. Nothing too crazy, but I just picked some other authors with similar books out that were hot right now. And that really seemed to do well. So I'm really happy with it.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
One of the terms you use the term takeover for people who aren't familiar with that term. Could you describe what a takeover is?
Sure. A takeover is when you go into someone else's Facebook group. So whether it's a reader group or an author group or a book blogger group, you go in and you introduce yourself and you do giveaways and you talk about your books. That's kind of how a takeover goes. It's like in a specific time slot, and the goal is to introduce yourself to new readers.
Yeah, obviously readers are very similar to yours. You hope like an author audience is very similar to yours. And you found success with that in the past, but you didn't emphasize it too much this time?
Yeah, definitely. The last standalone release I did was in December, and I did a ton of takeovers, and it was a great release, but I didn't see a ton of crossover. I didn't see a lot of people signing up for my newsletter from those groups. I didn't see a lot of people from those groups coming into my group. And, takeovers in the romance community are kind of, everybody does them now, and everybody does a ton of them. So it's really hard to stand out in them.
Right.
I just did one in a group of 20-some thousand people and had very minimal interactions. So, I mean, it was
interesting.
Yeah. So you just have to figure
out. It's a lot
out
of fun probably, but maybe probably not as effective as it is just fun. And I'm sure it's good for networking and such, but it's careful with your time, I'm sure. You mentioned that your newsletter list had grown exponentially from October. Was there anything you were doing in particular during that time period that really grew it with effective people that ended up being real readers, not just,
Yes, there was.
Okay.
So I had a release on December 1st. It was a standalone. It was Christmas. The timing was fantastic because most other Christmas books hadn't come out yet. And it was just good timing. So what I did with that release that was totally different is I wrote an epilogue. Most romance novels have an epilogue. It goes in the back of the book. But then I wrote an extended epilogue. So it was another scene. And in order to get it, you had to sign up for my newsletter. And it's delivered through BookFunnel. So I was hands-off. I didn't have to be doing tech support for them. I didn't have to deliver it to their Kindles for them. So doing that, I think we added... I thought it was more than that. It was like around 1,500 new subscribers to my, and that was like within the 4 to 6 weeks of a launch. So it's still going. The downloads are still going. And those are people that read an entire book of yours, finished it, and still wanted more. So they're going to be pretty valuable subscribers.
Absolutely.
And they turned out to be, because they got me into the top 100 for this launch.
Yeah, evidently the exact people that you wanted on your list, which is, I think, everyone's dream to have. So we try to focus a little bit with this. Obviously, we talk marketing. We really appreciate you sharing some of those tips for authors as well. We also talk about readers, and this show is also for readers. What's you as a reader, like what's inspiring you right now in fiction, and like what's inspiring you with your upcoming books and your creation side?
I think as a reader and a writer, I'm kind of inspired by how generous the writers in this community are. So if I'm talking to another reader friend, you know, writers are always, what's the word? We're just constantly supporting each other. So, you know, I love that I have the opportunity to show my author friends to my readers and vice versa. I've met a ton of new authors because my author friends have introduced me to them, and that works as a reader as well. My reader group in Facebook, that's one of the things. Your to be read list explodes just because we really like to talk about other books and share what we like, and it's not really a scarcity mentality. You know, there's no, you know, my launch did this, and I don't want anyone reading anyone else's books. You can't.
Right.
You can't
Especially in romance. I mean, the readers are so ravenous anyway that they're reading way faster than you can keep up with, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Can you share?
What's that?
Could you share the name of that group? So if anyone wants to join and
Yeah, sure. It's Lucy Score's Binge Readers Anonymous, and it's, you know, it's not just about my books. It's actually, we talk a lot about tacos.
I'm in. You had me at tacos.
I think you'd enjoy it in there. It's a blast.
Yeah, I just had some tacos earlier, and I was thinking about you. I'm like, I wish we could have, you know, shared more tacos.
I know. I haven't had lunch yet, and tacos sound pretty good.
All right. Well, we won't keep you from them for too long. But so can you tell us a little bit about what to expect next from you and what you're working on now? What are some of the things you're excited about that readers can look forward to from Lucy Score?
Sure. I don't have a lot of details to share because most of my projects this year are kind of secret. I've finished my next book, but it hasn't gone to the editors yet, and it's kind of a secret project, so I haven't talked to my readers about it. It's small town rom-com, but it's something totally new, and I'm pretty excited. And then most of my projects this year are kind of hush hush, but I am going back to my series in the summer. I'm doing number 6 in the Blue Moon series, and that's a small town rom-com series based on this little tiny town in upstate New York that was settled by hippies. So it's funny.
Can you tell people a little bit about we're going to do some audience Q&A in just a second, and we're going to look for some comments and see if anyone else has comments they want to ask. But can you tell us a little bit about the book that you just put out, the launch, The Worst Best Man? Can you tell people a little bit about that so that they can go look for it?
Yeah, The Worst Best Man is a standalone romantic comedy. It starts off kind of madcap adventure with a destination wedding in Barbados gone completely awry. The groom gets kidnapped, and the maid of honor and the best man hate each other, and they have to work together to rescue the groom. And I actually intended the entire book to be that, just this like slapstick, fast-moving, you know, adventure. And I realized as I was writing it that I wanted to know what happened once they went home. So that's actually the majority of the book, and I had no idea how readers were going to feel about it because it really changes gears. It's still really funny, and it's still really sweet, and it's still really steamy. But that's actually pretty much everybody's favorite part of the book when they go home and they start dealing with the fact that they're from totally different worlds.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of an interesting take on it. Instead of having a one setting kind of story, then shifting gears. That sounds really interesting to take it that way. And obviously the readers love it because the reviews are fantastic. So that's awesome. I'm looking at, I don't know if you can see comments at all, but I've got
I can see a couple.
Some people saying hi, and Sometimes there's a bit of a delay. If people are asking questions, sometimes we don't see them right away. So if anyone does have comments and you leave them, if we don't get to them during the course of this, we will sort of hang around a little bit after and try to answer questions in the comments as well. I'm also going to try to post up some links like to Lucy's website and also to maybe her reader group if we can get that. Well, maybe we'll post a link in the comments as well after the show. So where's the best place for people to go find more information about you?
Probably my website for, a high level look. It's lucyscore.net.
Okay.
And then if you want to hang out with me, come into my reader group on Facebook. I'm there a lot more than I should be.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't want to come hang out with you, right? So.
There's tacos. It's great.
Exactly. There's cats walking through things with videos, and there's tacos. Right. It's pretty much the best of the internet. I can't read it.
Let's talk about fitness.
I like it. So, do you have any advice? We have a lot. Like I said, we do have a lot of writers who are going to be watching these shows and these episodes. Do you have any? What's your advice for someone just starting out, trying to, as far as the essentials? Any tips for aspiring writers?
I have so much advice, guys. So much. I'll try to limit it here. Okay. Really, like as Nora Roberts always says, put your ass in the chair. Like if you're not sitting down to write every single day, like that's your number one problem. And yeah, I get that you can't do it every single day, but it has to become a habit and it has to be a priority. You have to fiercely guard your time. You can't let your cat wander across your keyboard or, get distracted by laundry and kids and lunch and things like that. You have to carve out whatever time you can, and that is your time, and everyone needs to respect it. That's the most important thing. I think secondly is you can't just write, you have to read. So you want to be reading the really, really excellent writers in your genre. That's very important because you need to keep learning. Otherwise your books kind of, can stall out. They can feel the same, and you constantly want to be improving. So you got to read, you got to write. Also, this was my big mistake. You need to build your newsletter list immediately. Like I don't think I had a newsletter when Pretend Your Mind came out. So that book hit number 1 and I lost all of those readers. So it's taken me this long from October 2015 until now to start rebuilding that list. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like almost premature success in your case, which is
exactly. But it taught me not to do. So
not a terrible thing to have happen. We're never going to feel too bad that you've hit number 1 on Amazon without just I'm not going to cry too much for you. But one other thing that you've got that's sort of distinctly different, and before we wrap up, Mr. Lucy is a key part of your author business. Any tips about, I know he's a wave, I know he's off screen somewhere, but
he's waving back.
Any tips about working with your significant other in your author business? How to make that work? Any tips there?
Choose your significant other wisely. It's just he really gets me, and being a writer can be kind of a really emotionally frustrating thing, and he understands that. He doesn't expect me to be like sunshine and puppy dogs all the time, and he doesn't make me feel bad for feeling bad about how a book is going or the writing process or a mistake that I made. He's very supportive of that, and he doesn't interrupt me when I'm writing. I watched a Hallmark Christmas movie this year that I turned off because I was so infuriated. The girl thought she was being adorable every time she interrupted the guy who was writing a novel. She's like, "Oh, look, here I am again." And I'm like, "No, I hate you. He had no respect for his time." So yeah, you gotta choose your partner as well.
I saw Jenny Smith posted a comment. She asks, "Do you?" What's that?
I see her comment, yeah.
You see her comment? She said, "Do you make an outline of your entire story so you can closely follow it, or do you change the story as it's being written?"
Jenny, great question. I know Jenny, I love her. I do make an outline, and I try to stick to it very closely, but as I'm writing, there's always other scenes that I know need to fill in the gaps. But the main outline, I try to flesh that out as much as possible because it makes the writing process a lot easier. And like the Christmas Fix, my release in December, I only outlined the first 50 or 60%, and it was the worst experience trying to finish that last portion of the book. I still was not sure, even after it went to the ARC team, I still wasn't sure if I liked the book. because it was so emotionally painful to finish something that I didn't know where it was going.
Yeah,
So The Worst Best Man was a really good outline, really solid, and writing flow. That book was just a dream to write from beginning to end. So I do outline, and I do it very carefully.
That's cool. Good tip. And Andrea asks, I've not read any of your books. Where should I start? Do you have a recommended starting place?
Andrea, it depends on your mood. If you're looking for something light and fun, I would start with the Blue Moon series. The first one is No More Secrets. It's just really fun and funny, and it's a great a fictional community that really draws people in. If you're looking for something with a little bit more angst, I would say either Pretend You're Mine or the Sinner and Saint duet. There's romantic suspense in both, but it's still this central love story.
All right, fantastic. Well, I think that's maybe a great question to wrap up on. Like I said, anyone who has more questions or comments, feel free to leave them, and we'll try to get to them after the episode finishes. Thank you so much, Lucy, for being on the show and taking your time to be here with me.
Thanks for having me, Nathan. This was fun. I wish there were tacos. Next time we'll do this when we're visiting again, maybe in St. Pete's, and then we'll have tacos.
There you go. This is a solid plan. We'll have you back on as a repeat guest, the special taco episode.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And for everyone watching, you can tune in. We will have more episodes this week. We've got Wednesday, we'll be talking to actor and narrator Neil Helligers. We've got David Gaughran on Thursday, and also another episode on Friday. So lots of good content for Book Faces Live this week. So thank you everyone who has watched, and looking forward to chatting with you more this week. So thanks again, Lucy, for being here, and it's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Have a great week.
All right, you too. Happy writing.
Thanks.